Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Villa View. And once again, as always, do not adjust your TV sets. This is a takeover. Dan Bardell is on assignment, we're going to call it today, and he has asked that maybe somebody fill in for him. And I don't know what came over him last night. He had some sort of a weakness, and he asked me to fill in for him. But I'm delighted to help out here on the Villa View, and you will be delighted to know I'm not here on my own. The wonderful Omar is here also, and we've got a lot to talk about today, Omar. Even like breaking news just before we go on and everything has happened. But before we get into that, Omar, how are you doing and how's your Friday treating you?
Good, mate. Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a busy one with work, but managed to spare some time for this as always,
Exactly.
Big match tomorrow. And we had to step in, we had to pick up the pieces from Dan Bardell's absence. So I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, and look, I suppose let's get straight into it because there's been a bit of news over the last 24 hours. There's been contract signings, there's been loans out, there's been, you name it. So just before we get into the Everton piece and discuss on Everton, I think it would be remiss of us not to discuss the two contracts that have been signed in the last 24 hours. Firstly, Courtney House signing yesterday for next year. I think it was 3.5 years. And then, of course, the big news today that only 18 months after joining the club, Emi Martinez has signed a 5.5-year deal, which is a real, I suppose, statement effect, I think, for Aston Villa Football Club, considering the amount of eyes that he's had on him since he's moved to Villa Park. Want to talk to us about that? I didn't expect Emi to have a new deal this soon. No. I thought it might be a summer piece, but man, I was delighted to see him holding that shirt with 2027 on it.
Yeah, I think the tag read a surprise, isn't it, from Villa when they announced it? So it was definitely something that they wanted to make a big thing out of. But I think it's a huge statement of intent, obviously following the Luca Dean and Coutinho signings. This is massive for us. He's probably our best player, or one of our best players, definitely highly rated, one of the best keepers in the world. Been a revelation for us since his sign. For it to tie up for that long, I think shows that he's a committed guy as well. I think, when he joined, he talked about how he didn't see Villa as a step down from Arsenal, how important this move was for him. And the fact that he's been able to play week in, week out, get into the Argentinian team, win the Copa America, all those good things. I think, I get a sense he's a real family man. He's quite settled in Birmingham. And I think this is, him actually committing to his future at Villa, not like other people who've signed new contracts and then gone maybe a season after. But I get the feeling that, he means this, and it's a bit, like I say, a big statement of intent that, we're trying to keep our best players. And even if, someone does come in for him, then they're going to have to pay big money to take him away.
Absolutely. And look, it's future proofing, if nothing else. Sometimes I get slagged for using that word because I use it in a lot of context with regards to the new vision of Aston Villa, talking about the darker times of when we had certain owners that owned us, or that maybe didn't have the cash flow, or were living day by day. This ownership group are really future proofing the club. They're knowledgeable about contracts, they're knowledgeable about financial, and you're probably the better person to discuss about this, but the amortization and stuff like that of contracts, and of how this works with financial reporting into the future with regards to financial fair play and stuff. And having your best players sign contracts every 18 months or 2 years is it's really good from a financial point of view. Not only does it keep them happy financially, but also it's good when you're trying to balance the books going forward if that player was to leave, with regards to minimum release clauses. If I'm not saying there's anything in there with this, but also the discussion of the forecasting of finances into the future, the kind of the wizardry that can be done with those kind of financial pieces. So brilliant to see Emi Martinez sign for another 5.5 years. It's a position that every club needs stability in, and when you've got a good one, you just don't lose your good goalkeeper. So absolutely thrilled with that. And Courtney House, unheralded player, has his good times, has his bad times. I still like to think of myself as the conductor of the Courtney House bandwagon, but he is very much a needed player at Aston Villa at the moment, being our only fit bench defender at the moment, or centre half at the moment. It was nice to see him sign. It was nice to see him speak highly of the club, because he's somebody who hasn't really got a look in, but we've been able to keep him happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously his contract was, I think, was he 18 months left or 12 months left? I can't remember what he had left before he signed a new contract. But there were sort of discussions on social media, etc., that will he stay? Will he go? Will he look for first team football? Obviously, his opportunity has been limited with with Mings being our captain and main man. But I think the fact that he mentioned again that he settled with the club, and I think the club showed a lot of love for him. You know, he was not really getting into the Wolves team, was on the fringes, going out on loan, etc. And he's come here, and he's maybe not played as many games as he'd hoped, but he has played important games, and he's played an important part in many games. And he's an important member of our squad as well. And we saw with him coming on against Man United as well. You know, he's done that so many. How many times has he done that? And I know you're the leader of the Courtney House fan club, and you've always raved about him. And I'm with you as well in terms of his ability. And you know, every time he comes in, pretty much he does a job. You can be relied on, and that's the kind of play you want. And it's going to be difficult for us now moving forward. You know, we're going to have a lot of players. We want to have strength in depth. We want to have quality across the board. Trying to keep players happy. You know, historically, as Villa fans, we've not been used to big squads, really. Even under Martin O'Neill, you know, we had maybe 13, 14 players that we relied on week in, week out. And then, you know, under Gregory, Ron Atkinson, Little, etc. You know, this just wasn't the time of big squads. So this is going to be a new thing for us, where if we are going to have, you know, Target and Luca D now, two quality left backs, and Ings and Watkins. Obviously, we've seen the issues with that this season as well. So we're going to try and keep these players happy, but the best way to do that is try and win more matches, and get into more competitions, and you know, get further in the cups, try and get into Europe, and then you have plenty of games then, and plenty of opportunities for players to play, and that's what I think Courtney House and Martinez are signing up for. You know, they're trying to sign up for us to then push on and get into those top 8, top 6 places, and get more game time, get a higher profile, try and win things. And that's just the way we're going to do it. I'll be interested to see what happens in the summer, because obviously we're still quite short in the centre back area. I don't know what you think, but you know, we do need now. Tuanzebe's gone. I wonder what kind of profile of player we're going to go for at centre back. Whether we go for someone who can, you know, who's a bit younger than Konza and can push him, or whether we go for someone more experienced like Tarkowski. I don't know. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know really with regards to that, because once again, there's no doubt about it. We've been blindsided by Tuanzebe deciding to go to Napoli, and the club hadn't planned for that. Now, does that mean that the club turns around and says, let's, you know, have our hand turned with regards to maybe going spending 20, 30, 40 million on a centre half? 40 million would be, I think, out of this world. I don't think we would do that, considering it would be higher than any transfer fee we've ever spent. And, you know, if we bring in a 40 million pound player, they're going to want to start straight away. So where I come down on this is kind of like where I come down on the central defensive midfielder position, just for this moment in time. And I think that maybe Rangers might be bracing themselves for a bid for Connor Goldston. They seem to want to get John Suter over the line very, very quickly, from Hearts. And I would imagine that if John Suter signs, I think that Steve Gerrard could give a call to his old mate above in Rangers. Now, is that going to be the sexiest signing that Aston Villa could make? It isn't, but I think what it does is it still leaves the door open for Aston Villa in the summer to buy and to to really kind of once again future proof that position again at the centre half position, because Konza is very young. Mings is coming into his 29th year. House, yes, he is there. I think he's about 27. Goldston is up around is 29, I think, from memory. So they're going to want to bring in another younger centre half there. But I don't think the outlay will be big on a centre half in January. I think we'll get functional players in there, just like I think we might get a functional player into the central defensive midfield position. I want good players. I'm just preparing myself for the ignominy of having to climb down off my perch if we don't sign 40 million pound players in those two positions. But I think the pragmatism will outweigh, and the fit to the system, and the pragmatism might outweigh the I suppose the flashiness of the signings here. And I think, I don't know where I come down on it, but I think that needs must, specifically with the centre half position, because we were blindsided with Tuanzebe. So unless the dream player becomes available, I think we might have a stopgap in that position.
Yeah, obviously we've signed Keir Smith as well, yes. But I don't think I think he's signed with an eye for the future. Obviously 17 years old, highly rated, but probably going to play for the under 23s, isn't he? But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see, and I guess we'll see this weekend as well, because Konza was potentially injured, isn't he? Yeah. So I imagine House will start
Yeah, and that's a good segue, actually. Before we go through that, just to remind everybody that Boohoo Man and the Villa View have a partnership. And if you fancy going on Boohoo Man website and making yourself a purchase or an order, you'll get an extra 10% off, even on top of any of the prices that they have there. All you need to use is the code Villa View. That's an extra 10% off on Boohoo Man, and the code is Villa View. Why not use it now? It's the weekend. You get them sometime next week. You'll have them for the weekend after. And with restrictions and stuff like that all coming to an end, everybody's going to want to look fresh and fly before they go out. I don't
Treat
know why I
yourself.
just used the word fly. Where did that come from? I must have transported myself
We
back
go
to
back
the
in the
1980s. I don't know. Am I
Superfly? I think you're bringing it back, mate. This is the start of it. I think you're bringing it back.
Bring it back. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, fast forward a month, and everyone will be saying it, mate. Honestly.
Hashtag influencer, they say. But anyway, getting towards Everton, obviously we've got the early game against Everton, the midday kickoff, and I'll be honest with you, I tried to write notes about Everton last night, and I got 4 words in, and it went, they've got big dunk, and that was it, because I think after that everything else is an unknown. They've obviously gotten rid of Rafa Benitez, and they've moved towards, they've got the interim and Big Dunk in there, but the squad of players that they have is quite good, and somebody should be able to get a tune out of them. I just hope it's not at this weekend. And really, what's your views on that? You know, are they going to be the kind of the wounded animal who has a fan favorite over them now? And should Villa be really on their toes for this game at the weekend?
Yeah, I think it's probably bad timing for us to play them. We probably could have done with Rafa still being there, but we had. It's quite interesting. We spoke to an Everton fan yesterday. I was doing a Spaces yesterday, and an Everton fan came on, and he was saying about he thinks Big Dunk will get something out of the team straight away, given his character, and he'll probably go for like a 4-3-3 formation, which he tends to play. So I think there's bad timing. One with Rafa going, Big Dunk coming in. He obviously has a massive influence on that club, and he's highly thought of, and he I think as a short-term measure, I think he'll probably do a decent job. Plus they've got Calvert-Lewin back, Richarlison back, Yeremina back, all these players have now back as well, so it's probably bad timing that front. But regardless, I think their problems are a bit more deep-rooted than that. There's a lot of issues going on with that club generally. So I think it's one of those games where if we manage to either keep it tight for the first half or the first 25 minutes or try and nick a goal early on, then the crowd will get on their back, given what's happened over the last few weeks. And I think we can take advantage of that. But it's a difficult one. We don't know, because it's going to be a different manager, a different way of playing. Benitez has been playing that counter-attacking style throughout the season, and I think we'll probably see a slightly different Everton team. But I'm fairly confident either way. I don't know how you feel. I still think, although it is probably bad timing, I still think we should have enough to beat them, and really we do really need to beat them, because we haven't won in a while now, so it'll be good to get a win on the board.
I agree that we should beat them. I agree that we have nothing to fear going to Goodison Park. But like a lot of people say, you should fear the unknown, and it really is an unknown. But I don't think we should even fear that, because ideally, when you're looking at this Everton team, there are some deficiencies, but they do have a lot of international players. You look at their back four, all international players. Their goalkeeper, an international player. Anytime they trot out their midfield, as long as Anthony Gordon isn't in the midfield, or Tom Davies, who's out injured, they're going to have a core of international players up there, and then they're going to have 2 strikers who started the season red hot in Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin up there as well. So there's obviously things to be wary of. The club, just because you get rid of one man doesn't mean that the toxicity doesn't just ebb away overnight. I don't think. We obviously have profited from the toxicity that came from, or that was rumored to be going on in that club at the time. And I think some of it stems from the top down, but Lucas Digne is going to be lining out in our colours as opposed to Everton colours. That's a doubly good news story for us, because the way he performed against Manchester United was really, really good. And obviously that weakens them. Now they have gone away and bought Mikolenko as well, who's a fantastic left back himself. But what I'm trying to get at here is that, the stability for Aston Villa should be worth, it should be worth the 3 points on its own. Yes, you get the new manager bounce and the interim manager bounce, specifically when they're a fan favourite, but I just don't know can the players get that much more out of themselves with the 6-day turnaround or a 5-day turnaround or whatever it is since Rafa Benitez has been sacked. I'm just skeptical as to whether it would happen that quickly. And also there is like, they have to be wondering and looking over their shoulders and saying, listen, look, we don't know who's going to come in here. Obviously talks of Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Cannavaro was even mentioned yesterday. Now there's a left field appointment. But obviously all big names in their own right for what they've done on the field. But the managerial position is going to be really important for them. They didn't get on with the last guy. They're going to be wondering who's going to come in. But can Big Dunk just tie them all together for one game? It's going to be really interesting. But as you said, the key to this is pin them down early and keep the pressure on them early. An early goal wins this game, I think. But that's something that Aston Villa really need to kind of capitalize on, because we're very much a Jekyll and Hyde team. Good one half, bad the other half. A 90-minute performance, I think, the weekend would sap the confidence out of Everton. And if we are going to push on up the table, I think we're only 4 points ahead of Everton at the moment, given all the woes that they've gone through. We need to be putting daylight between ourselves and some of those teams in the 14, 15 position brackets, because if we do have opportunities to move up the league, and one of them being against Everton at the weekend, it's going to be really important for us to take it. And Omar, I suppose really, we mentioned there's actually a good comment there from Giggs Sharma that can Anwar play against us? He can't, because it's a loan, is my understanding. Technically it is a loan, so we won't be able to see him at the weekend. But you mentioned Konza earlier on, and it doesn't look good for him. It doesn't look good. And to be honest with you, the challenge looked so innocuous. Yeah, it was a clumsy, poor challenge, but it looked so innocuous. And I just hope he can get over it. But do you see Aston Villa springing their man from the bench, i.e. Coutinho, or do you see them starting Coutinho at the weekend? I'm 50-50 on which I actually fully prefer.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a difficult one. Gerrard talks in a press conference about Coutinho looked good in training, etc., and looks hungry, but I still match fitness, as we know, is so important. And he only had sort of 16 touches or something like that when he came on. So he didn't have a lot of the ball, but what he did do obviously was important. But I still think he's probably going to be a little bit off the pace. So I'd be pretty surprised if he does start. At the same time, we know Ings, Watkins, and Buendia as a three probably isn't working for us at this present time in terms of creativity and them gelling and playing together and linking up. So I really don't know. I mean, in an ideal world, would obviously start with Coutinho, Buendia, and Watkins probably as the front three, I say. But I think realistically, we're probably going to have to get him off the bench and start again, as we did with Man United, with the same front three, and see how things go. They're all quality players. Yes, it's not working out at this present time, but there's not to say that they can't create something. There's goals in that front three, there's assists in that front three still. Regardless of that. So I imagine you'll probably go for the same side, and probably House will come in for Konza. I think that's what I reckon.
I was thinking that, but I just don't know, will he start with that three with McGinn to come back into midfield? Because I think
of course, yeah.
I think
McGinn
he plays McGinn. I wonder, does he push Jacob Ramsey a bit further forward, and maybe Ollie Watkins sits this one out, or maybe Danny Ings sits this one out and comes on as an impact sub? Because could you imagine the fear it would strike in teams' hearts if you were to bring on a Danny Ings / Coutinho double at 60 minutes, and we're maybe only 1-0 up, but like that means that you push them back further for the last half hour, and it doesn't allow them to get ahead of steam while they're chasing a goal. I just don't know. I don't know. Is that something that he'll look at? Go for functionality to start, try and nick an early goal, and then bring on the big guns then to try and kill it off, like we did in Goodison when Leon Bailey came off the bench and had that fantastic cameo that we've barely seen him since.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think it's up in the air. I can definitely see that as an option. I don't think Ramsey is that effective as part of the front three, playing from the left normally. But at the same time, like you talk about function there, we talked a minute ago about keeping it tight and frustrating them early on. And I think that's probably one way you could do it is have Sanson, McGinn, Louise, and Ramsey all in the team, and then see where it goes. I think if you go for that personnel, then I think you have to play Watkins for his running and his pressing, because I think, Ings, if we play Ings then in that kind of formation or with those players, then we know what Ings' strengths are, and I don't think him running the lines or pressing the centre backs, pressing the goalkeeper, etc., is going to be the best use of his talent. So I'd prefer probably play to Watkins if we do go down that route. But yeah, I could see either way. But I guess we'll see tomorrow, and I'll see you can do your team sheet tantrum tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
I enjoy tuning in for that on a regular basis.
Yeah, so they've been pretty milk toast recently. You know, there hasn't been anything to
Yeah,
really give out about. So we started called it team sheet tantrum because of the fact that we thought we'd be getting mad at most of the team sheets, but they've pretty much gone our way every time since. So I don't know what the story is, but
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I also think that one of the really interesting things for me tomorrow is going to be what makeup the bench is going to have. You know, Kanza doesn't make it. We're going to have a young kid on in there as a centre half. I would imagine maybe Feeney, Lamar Bogard, Swinkles, somebody of that ilk. We now won't have Archer. He's gone out and loaned to Preston North End. That's somebody I meant to talk about earlier on as well. Great loan move for him. And we most likely won't have Jaden Philogene Bidet either. So we don't have Philogene Bidet. We don't have Trezeguet. We don't have Bertrand Traore. We don't have Anwar El Ghazi. So where are our attacking options outside of Coutinho and or Ings / Watkins if they don't start tomorrow? Where are they going to come from? And I think those bench options are going to be really important for Villa tomorrow because, it'd be interesting to see what kids, if they do need to call up kids, what kids do they call up as well? And I find that always exciting when we come to games like this.
yeah. I mean, it's good for the youngsters to go out and learn. I think you're right. Archer and Philogene Bidet, they need that game time now. They're at that stage of their development where they need to be playing. And Archer's been banging in the goals and hasn't really had a look in the first team. So yeah, playing, I think, at a good level as well. They're both going to go, I think, as well. That's the kind of level they need to be playing at to try and develop better than going to a League One club, I think. But it does. You're right. It does leave us short. I wonder. Yeah, I do wonder what our bench will look like, and maybe Gerard talks about things bubbling away in the background. Not that we're going to sign anyone before this weekend, but maybe we're still looking at attacking options. That's maybe why we were linked with Suarez. So I guess we'll see.
Maybe we see a Brad Young or a Louis Barry, and that's who I was kind of alluding to because the fans would absolutely.
Of course, yeah. I forgot Louis Barry,
you know,
Brad Young back. Yeah,
for for that, and as Richard mentions below, Chuck Moeka, I think. Like that for me was his best and most complete performance. I think he only got 16 minutes or something like that, barely, maybe 20 minutes. But for me, he actually looked like a Premier League midfielder for the first time.
100%.
Because he was guts and glory in some of the tackles. He was carrying the ball forward. He was cute in around the box and how he played 1-2s and was able to get in around there. So he, for the first time I've seen him play in senior football, didn't really shy away from it, and that was a really great source because. We all talk about Philippe Coutinho turning the game on his head. Chuck Moeka will give us a real solid platform to build from there as an 8 in midfield, and that can only be good because if that tug of war with his contract is still there, who knows? We might even see him start tomorrow against Everton, and maybe somebody like Sanson take a back seat after. Although I don't think so. I think they'll play Sanson, but it's an option, and it's an option that's becoming more and more prevalent over the course as the year goes on. That Jared is going to trust him and Jacob Ramsey in the team. Whereas 12 months ago, you couldn't very rarely say that was an actual real option that hand in heart you could say might happen. So really good for Chuck Moeka and the likes of I'm going to call him young Tim because I really can't pronounce his surname. Eregbenham, I think it is.
Eregbenam.
Yeah.
Eregbenam. I don't know. I've no idea. I'm probably butchered that. But he looks like he's got all the attributes of a defensive midfielder that we need. Yes. Obviously, he hasn't played at the level that we need him to, but for the future, I think he could be a really important player for us, and if he develops in the right way. But yeah, I mean, you're completely right. And I think Chuck, we haven't talked about Chuck Moeka until now, but I think you needed that performance because I think when he's played this season, he's had opportunities. He's shown flashes, but I don't think he's been at his best. And maybe a little bit of doubt creeping in whether he was at the right level to start week in, week out, or make a significant impact at the Premier League level. But I think that game, him coming on, he was strong, he was assertive, he was calm on the ball, didn't lose it, got in good positions. I think that was a really eye-opening performance for me personally, and for Gerard as well. I think he mentioned him in his post-match conference as well. So you're right, yeah, maybe he could start, maybe he could play, but you've got So, I mean, looking at the bench, obviously our bench will be weakened because of a few players going out on loan and in AFCON. But you've got Chukwuemeka, you've got Young, potentially Coutinho, maybe one of Ings, Watkins there on the bench. It's not a terrible list of 4 or 5 players there to pick from if it came to having to change things. I suppose the defense is, as we say, is probably where we're at the weakest. But then you've got Target there on the bench who could play centre back, who could play centre back if need be. Although you probably wouldn't want him to, but I guess that's where Josh Feeney's there for.
Yeah. And Ken Hessler actually is another exciting prospect.
Of course, yeah.
Make the bench too. It doesn't look like he's going to go out over the course of January. I think they like what they see from him and want him to come in there with the, to solidify it, because one of my biggest things was if we were going to rely on Ashley Young to be our cover for fullbacks, I never fully bought into that, from the fact that, yes, he could probably do a job at left back, but I would have been terrified to put him at right back. Now I think we're seeing him as a 10 behind the striker position type player, or maybe even bringing him on in midfield for a small bit of control in games that we maybe need to control with the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, should I say. So he's once again another good bench player to have with his versatility, another good bench player to have too. So it's interesting combinations, I think, that we can look forward to tomorrow, whether it be from the bench or whether it be to start.
Gonna give you a prediction.
I'm gonna go 2-0 Villa. Don't know why. No justification for it. Just because I think I've no justification for it. Just because I'm living on cloud 9 after the comeback last week, and I think that, it was a big positive from a mentality point of view, the fact that you can come back against a team like Manchester United, who have been for far, far, far too long our bogey team as a club. And I think the players showed some mental fortitude there. And also what I think the management showed some mental fortitude, because they made a change at halftime that really worked. And that's something I've liked from Steven Gerrard's team since we've been here. He's not afraid to make adjustments based on previous performances or performances he's seen in the first half. And we've often seen that our teams have either come out in the second half and played completely different style than they did in the first half, or they've started a game and then maybe they've made an adjustment and sometimes it doesn't work. So I'm okay with him making those adjustments. And I think that just based on that, we're beginning to see maybe a small bit of a click. And I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for 1-0. I think we'll get a goal early and keep a clean sheet, which will be nice after Martinez has signed a new deal. That's what I reckon. But like I said, it'd be good to get a full sort of 90 minutes of 90-minute performance rather than just one half. That'd be nice to see. We haven't had that yet.
I think that's going to be the real win, is the performance. The performance as a whole will be the real win after what we've put together last weekend. I think that's going to do it for us, Omar. Just before we finish up again, just to give you a reminder, Boohoo Man and Villa View are in partnership. If you want to buy any of their fantastic clothes, go on Boohoo Man, use the code Villa View. You'll get an extra 10% off, even on top of any offers that they have going at the moment. So it's an additional 10%. All you need to do is use the code Villa View. If you can't spell that, come back and look at the podcast. You'll be able to see it down there in the right-hand corner, down there somewhere. You'll be able to find it there, and you'll be able to pop it in for extra cash monies back in your back pocket, because that's where they deserve to be. So I think that's going to do it, Omar. Thanks a million, everybody, for watching, for listening. If you're listening to this back, thanks a million to Dan for the opportunity to pop on here and to talk to you all. I'm sure the guys are going to be back again with a review show for the podcast after the Everton game, and hopefully they're talking about a win. And I think all that's really left to say is up the Villa.
The Villa.